I'd like to welcome everyone back for another episode of the LeRoy Irvin Show. LeRoy is a former three-time All-Pro corner and one-time All-Pro punt returner who still holds the record for the most punt return yards in a single game to this day. I'm your host, Jimmy. Alongside myself, we have our analyst, Coach B. And today we have an all-time guest, five-time All-Pro, seven-time Pro Bowler. He had an illustrious 20-year career, all with the Rams, and he's a part of the 2001 Hall of Fame class. We want to welcome Big Bad Jackie Slater.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Yeah.
Hello, LeRoy. How are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Awesome.
Hey, Jackie, I'm gonna ask you a
Good.
question. I'm gonna start with one question. Are you still squeezing that lemon?
No, no, LeRoy. I stopped squeezing it about 20 years ago, and what LeRoy is alluding to was the fact that I was an older guy when he came aboard, and then I was there when he left, and we used to often talk about how long I was going to play and all that, and I said it's just like making lemonade. You just got to and you only got one lemon. You got to squeeze every drop of juice out of that lemon. So that's what I was trying to do, Leroy, and I know you were trying to do the same thing as
Exactly.
well.
Want to start off, y'all played together for a long time. So what do you remember, or what were your first impressions of meeting Leroy when he came on the team?
Well, Leroy was he was a very confident young man. I remember, him coming in. There was quite a few uh, good cover guys on our team at that time. There were some guys that I thought he would play with for several years and learn from, like Pat Thomas and Rod Perry. They were actually the two starting corners in Super Bowl 14 for the Rams. And there was a couple of other guys, but the thing that I remember most about Leroy was that he was confident and he was very, very athletic and quick. And I tell people all the time, the best pure cover corner that I played with, in my mind, was Leroy Irvin. He was just a fabulous. I never saw anybody running past him, beating him on the underneath stuff, and I mean he had sticky hands. He was just one of those guys that I always wanted to be a DB, but I just got too big, and he was just one of those guys that I thought was real special.
Awesome. Jackie, the story is that you and Walter Payton had some sort of relationship, and he was a big reason why you went to Jackson State out of high school. Were there any other schools, or was it Jackson State the whole way once you met Walter?
Well, I got recruited to go to Texas Southern in Houston, Texas. I went over there for a visit. Mississippi Valley State, where Jerry Rice went. I went there for a visit. I went to Alcorn and visited there. Marino Cassim was the coach. And, I just kept gravitating back towards Jackson State, primarily because the coaches had shown quite a bit of interest, and they came to my house with the star running back, Walter Payton. And they said, "Come on over, Jackie. We're going to do some special things together." And I thought, wow, Walter Payton. I've been reading all about this guy and his brother all of my senior year in high school, how great they were doing, and here he is at my house. So it was a big factor in me making the decision to go there.
Hey, Jackie, let me ask you a question. That was back in the 60s, right?
Actually,
Early
I
70s.
graduated from high school in
Yeah.
72.
And
72.
how in the world, how in the world, what in the world, did a Jackie Slater
Yeah.
and a Walter Payton end up at the college that you went to? I mean,
Well, I mean, Leroy, it's funny you asked that question, but if you think about it, there were three guys that played together at Jackson State who are all in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we played together for 3 years. Walter Payton, myself, and Dr. Doom,
yeah.
Robert Brazil, who was he was the defensive rookie of the year for the Houston Oilers in 1975. I played with those guys for 3 years. They're fabulous talents, fabulous hard-working guys, and I just trying to be like them. Man, these guys were special, and everybody knew it, and they probably could have gone anywhere they were recruited. But my understanding was that they didn't get recruited to too many places. Certainly not in the SEC, and Jackson State was the option for them, and they went there, and so did I, and we ended up having some success. I was a third round pick in '76, and Walter and Robert Brazil were the fourth and sixth overall picks in 1975. So they
Do
were
you
pretty
think
special.
that, I mean, nowadays, when you get that kind of talent, I know the Southeast Conference was kind of anti-blacks, in a way, I mean, they were recruiting a lot of black players during those days. And then like, they had Too Tall Jones, a lot of guys had to go, the only option they had was to the historically black colleges. Whereas nowadays, you see the historically black colleges, they're not
Right.
getting none of the top athletes that they used to. So you think that was a factor as well?
Well, I mean, the times that we were living in our country, in my opinion, were some turbulent times. Dr. King was trying to clear up a lot of the inequities that we were dealing with, and certainly several others in our community. And then, and then there was this whole idea of the HBCs being, that's what we knew. Those are the schools that we were familiar with. Those are the schools that we watched and studied. And so it was just kind of like a natural gravitation to go to these places. I didn't get recruited by any of the schools in the SEC or anywhere else for that matter. I think I got recruited by Kansas State, which also recruited Walter Payton and Robert Brazile. But other than those schools, those in that school, I wasn't recruited to go to any other school. So I went where the opportunity presented itself, and that was
Yeah.
So
in the
Jackie,
SWAC for
Jackie,
me.
okay, go ahead.
go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, Jackie, no one recruited me either. I was in Augusta, Georgia. I was,
Is that right?
all state, third in the best guy in the state of Kansas, Georgia. Only school recruited me was Appalachian State and Kansas. So,
Is that right?
Wow.
And Leroy, that was what was that?
76 is when
10
I
years
graduated from
after
high
me.
school.
Yeah, so that was what, eight
Not too
years,
far behind.
something like that.
Yeah, Jackie, I
Not
really
too
want to
far
ask you.
behind.
You played with the Rams for 2 decades, really. And this could be a whole conversation that we could have about this. But what are some of your favorite memories during that time? And do you want to ask, did you ever get the chance to blow up Leroy in practice? You know, pull it out and hit him a couple times.
No, I can never
There
catch
you go.
Leroy to blow him up. Leroy, Leroy was all. I was all, as I said, I was always infatuated with corners, and I would, tease him and mess with him all the time, and one of the things that I remember, Leroy getting up for his guys, and we had a teammate named Henry Ellard. They call him Hop. He was the second round draft choice in '83 when we drafted Eric Dickerson, and I would ask Leroy, when we got ready to play one of the big name wide receivers like Jerry Rice or somebody like that. I said, Leroy, can you cover? And he'd look at me like, you asking me a dumb question like that. And I said, are you going to be okay with Jerry Rice or whoever the guy was? And Leroy would say, if I can cover Henry Ellard in practice, I can cover anybody. And he said it with confidence, so he was working hard every day against one of the best route runners in pro football, and he had a lot of confidence because he was earning it
One of
in
the things about
practice
Ellard,
every
like
day.
you mentioned Ellard, we go one-on-one, right? And so, normally the receivers don't tell you what routes they're going to run. They just run whatever they're going to run. George Farmer, he want to take you deep. Preston Denard, he wants to run the post end and the post corner. And Ellard used to come to me and say, Leroy, today I'm only working on my cut routes. Meaning he ain't going deep. We're in one-on-one practice. He's telling me he's only working on his cut routes. So I ain't got to worry about him going deep, but he's running to come back to out the MPC slant. I think he was the greatest route runner ever played against in reality, no doubt.
No doubt. And like
Right.
you said, if you could cover him, you could cover anybody, right? I will also share with you guys that there was my son Matthew. You might have heard of him. He played with the Patriots. I didn't want him to play football at all because I thought he'd have, it wasn't big enough for me to teach him the things that I knew. And so he said, Dad, when I get to high school. So I said, yeah, it's 3 years away. I put him off. And yeah, you finally got to high school. And he goes, Dad, you said that when I got to high school, if I wanted to play, I could go out for football. And I said, yeah, I did tell you that. So But anyway, the first thing I did was I went and I said, who can I get to help this guy? Because I can't help him. I don't know anything about covering and running routes and all of that. And so the first person that came to my mind was LeRoy. And LeRoy would come out and work with him on route running, backpedaling, planting and driving, and all of these things that I had no idea about. And the biggest thing that I think LeRoy did was to breed confidence in my son, and he really began to think that he could do it, at a different level. And that's one of the things that I always felt appreciative about with you, Leroy, was that you took the time to do it. You came to his games. You spoke a lot of football wisdom into his life, and
Yeah, but how about that
and
time
I saw it make a difference. So.
we're at the game? We're at the game and he missed the tackle.
Yeah.
Got my grandson over here calling me.
Yeah.
We were at the game. We were at we was at Matthew's game. He missed
What's
a
that?
tackle or something, and you looked at me
Oh
and
yeah.
said,
Well, yeah. What happened was Matthew comes up and they had this little stocky little fullback, and look, he was running over a lot of people, and Matthew was playing DB. And Matthew comes up to make the tackle, and he looked at this guy running at him, and he just dove into the dirt. He just dove into the dirt, not the legs, not the shins, not the thighs, not the head, nothing. Just dove into the dirt. And then he got up and ran the kid down and caught him before he scored back. And I told him, what kind of technique is that you're teaching, man? I said, what kind of tackling is that?
That's hilarious.
It was the worst exhibition of a routine tackle you ever saw in your life. And Matthew, he took to all the coverage stuff, but he wasn't
That's
about
called
that
business
physical
decision
part
right there.
early on.
yeah. Also,
Jackie, go ahead, Leroy.
Absolutely.
we're the one time I was training him, and you came and said, "Leroy, Matthew's always getting hurt. What are you doing out there training him so hard for?" I'm not training him that hard, Jackie. Just got an hour worth of workout. So next practice, I said, Matthew, want to get right home now? My dad's coming to get me. So next practice, right around the corner, Matthew did the same workout over before he called you to come pick him up. I wasn't overworking him; he was overworking himself.
Is that
I
right?
wasn't overworking him; he was overworking himself.
He was overworking himself. Well, that's been a benchmark of his all of his career. He's probably done more damage just trying to get ready than he did playing probably at times.
Jackie, you played for a ton of different OCs in your career and head coaches. Which one or which offensive system did you have the most fun in?
Oh man, it's hard to beat John Robinson, and when he acquired Ernie Zampese, it added a layer of sophistication to our passing attack that just was really special. The different protections that we did gave us variety in the way we could handle the guys like Reggie White and Howie Long and all of these special pass rushers. And so I would have to say during that time, because the thing that I loved doing the most, and I had the unique opportunity to play with two of the best running backs that ever played the game. I blocked with Walter Payton in college for 3 years, and then I played with Eric Dick at the Rams. And to have coaches at both of those stints to want to feature those guys, but all kind of imaginative plays, variety in that, it just made me a better player because I was being physical and I was using variety in the way that we attack guys. And guys just didn't know. I got to believe that most of the guys that I played against at one point in time, their resolve had to be that they were going to try to just take me down the middle as often as I would give them an opportunity. And then if I didn't give them the opportunity, they were going to work to get down the middle on me because I would step inside, get them to bite, and club them down inside, the ball come outside. I would step outside, get them to bite, club them outside, the ball come inside. And then I would open up the pool, do a lot of different things. So I learned that the variety of the running game that you guys introduced, particularly John Robinson when he came from USC, Ernie Zampese in the passing game, it made me a more effective offensive lineman as I began to think through, the opportunities that were being presented to me to disguise some of the blocking schemes that I was using.
Oh,
I love
you
that
failed to
answer. That's really
mention
nice.
Marshall Faulk and Jerome Bettis.
Well, I did fail to mention them, but that's the third Hall of Famer that I blocked for was Jerome Bettis. I didn't play with Marshall Faulk. Got
Right.
to work with the offensive line that blocked for him though in
Yeah.
St. Louis. But Jerome the Bus Bettis was, I'll tell you that guy was really special, man. He was big guy, boisterous, confident, almost braggadocious. I mean, he and Sean Gilbert, the big number 3 pick that the Rams had out of Pittsburgh, would get after each other in practice every day. And Jerome, he didn't back away from anybody at any time. He ran hard, he practiced hard, challenged guys. That if the U came up and hit him in practice, the next time he was going to be looking for you to run you over. And it was just it was a real cool experience meeting the
Nice.
bus and playing with him. And
One ask is, I mean, you made the trip from LA to St. Louis with the Rams. What was that experience like for you? And then transitioning to a new city with your family, new stadium and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable. It was odd. I had played in the Coliseum for 4 years. Then I played in Anaheim Stadium for 15. And if I were going to play a 20th season or any part of it, I had to go to St. Louis. And it was very uncomfortable. Nobody there knew me. And I was injured and ultimately ended up only playing one game because of the injury. So, but it was odd. The only thing that I really, really appreciated there was the fans and how they were really happy that the Rams were there. And then the beautiful new stadium that was built there. It was nothing like anything I'd had at either one of the other places. It was state of the art. It looks like Stan Kroenke has a way of going about doing that, building stuff that nobody else is doing. And at that time, it was just so special to
yeah,
be in that place, just like it is up at SoFi right now. So
yeah.
it was a different time for me, and I I was glad to be able to get that one game in and say that I played in at least one game in 20 years. And when that occurred, at that particular time, I was really starting to have, it was a funny thing. The headaches that I was having, I had
Mhm,
had them, maybe 10 years prior to that.
mhm.
But they really start with less contact. The headaches began to get worse, and it wasn't the best thing at that
Yeah.
particular time. So it was a good
Did you
thing that
consider
didn't have
retiring
any
once you
more
found
years
out they were
left.
gonna move?
I did. I did consider uh, retiring, and I had a conversation with one of the coaches at that particular time, and he felt like he wanted me to come along and put some leadership as we transitioned. I think a lot of people in the organization wanted that. I kind of sensed that, and then I'm the type of guy that like LeRoy said, I'm going to squeeze the lemon. I wanted to play every drop of football that my body had in me. I wanted to play it all out, and
Hey,
so I
Jackie,
chose
let's
to
just
do
go
that.
back to 1985. Okay, let's just take a trip back in time. We come into Chicago with the best offensive line in football, in my opinion. Don't you agree? And then the best running back in football.
I think so at
And
that
I knew
time.
we were
Yeah.
in trouble that game in the first quarter when Dieter Brock couldn't throw the slant, and Eric couldn't get back to the line of scrimmage. What do you remember about that game?
Well, I remember it was a totally humiliating effort by our offense, and I tell Vince Ferragamo all the time that if he had been our quarterback and not run off Canada, that we could have beat the Bears. I never
Yeah,
will forget Dieter Brock, big strong arm guy, but he sidearmed the ball, and when the
right.
ball came out of his hands and that it hit the wind, it looked like a frisbee bouncing up and down. Vroom, 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 vroom,
Right.
vroom. Knew that was going to be a problem all day long, and most of the passes he completed were short passes where the coverage was able to eat up our receivers real fast,
Right.
and they stacked the line of scrimmage. They basically played at 8 front. It's what we all remember about that game. And we really didn't have a chance to win that game at all because we were kind of handicapped at the quarterback position, getting the ball down the field. Yeah. It was the same team that we had. It was the same team that we had gone there and beat at a different time on a Monday night.
Yes.
We went and beat that team, and then we went to New Orleans. Fit the whole in New Orleans. It was the same team, but we just had a guy that can throw the ball.
Quarterback.
Yeah,
Quarterback.
we had Jim Everett.
How do you feel about your son following you to Canton? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it would be unprecedented. There's no doubt about it. And but time will tell on stuff like that, LeRoy. I never count the chickens before the eggs hatch. And I think he put together a nice resume, and it depends on how the people feel about him and everything he got accomplished.
All right, Jim, what the decision going to be?
You're
going
how
to be
the
in
final
Canton with his
decision
dad.
is made.
Side by side. Yeah. I want to take it back
Well,
a little
we'll
bit back to 1983
We'll see.
to a specific game versus the Jets. We'll say there was a bit of a disagreement on the field versus the Jets, in particular Mark Gastineau after a sack. Can you take us to that moment, that experience?
Yeah, it was. He was a big time ball player. There's no doubt about it. Huge talent, very aggressive, very confident, and it was a big challenge for me in that particular game. At that particular time, I had held him pretty much in check, and then we called this play called dash, where the quarterback was supposed to motion a tight end over, swipe him down inside. I was supposed to pull out, remember, and look for the corner, or listen to the quarterback yell, go, and then down the field we go. Well, Vince went back in the pocket with the wrong personnel on the field and allowed Preston Denard to run a route. Nobody banged the guy, and I kind of flipped my hips out to go. He ran straight to the pocket, got the quarterback, and he started celebrating. And I just wanted to shove him and say, hey, man, that was a busted play. And I did that, and next thing I know, the benches were clear.
LeRoy, did you get in?
Yeah, it was
into that
kind of
I stepped on the field, okay? I stepped on the field, and I got fined. I didn't.
I got you.
Yeah, whoever stepped on the field, we got fined. I think the Rams ended up, paying our fines, but we were stepping on the field. And back then, I wasn't making that much money. I was probably making $85,000. You take, $2,500 from me or whatever it was, a lot of money. So
Oh, yeah.
stepped on the field, and I got everyone got fined. Just stepped on the field.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Got you.
crazy.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I was glad to be able to join you tonight.